Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are taking a look at this beautiful new battle-damaged Triceratops from Mattel. This is another of the 3 new battle-damaged figures that have recently been released in the United Kingdom, and unfortunately they're pretty unattainable in the United States as of right now. Hopefully that will change in the very near future, but luckily thanks to Matthew the Dinosaur King, I have the opportunity to have this in my collection and to review it here for you guys before trying to search it out in the United States if it does ever in fact show up here. I really like this figure. The initial version of this, the greenish version, I wasn't a huge fan of. I liked it, but I didn't really think that it was anything special, and I kind of feel like the sculpt of the Triceratops has a little bit of an awkward look to it. It's a decent look, but it's not that great. It's not near as nice as the Roarivore version, but this one here actually looks really nice. I love the paint scheme on this. The color tones that they've chosen on here look so incredibly awesome that I was immediately sold in this figure as soon as I had seen it initially in the promotional images. I really have been quite the big fan of this paint scheme since the initial unveiling. As far as the packaging goes, again, it's just like the others. We've got the battle damaged logo, Triceratops, they're dead in the center, and then Owen and Blue creepily staring at us from the corner. They probably just ripped one and they're hoping we don't notice. And then you can see the Triceratops here on the back, illustrating the battle damage feature, and then the Gasosaurus and Velociraptor, which are the other 2 that I have recently reviewed here on the channel down there in the corner. So let's go ahead and break this out of the box and get a look at it. So here is our Triceratops. And I must say, looking at this thing, knowing that it is a smaller version of the Triceratops, I really feel like that it has a very strong appearance of maybe a younger Triceratops, like a juvenile. I really feel like it does have that kind of appealing factor to it, and that's also one thing that is pretty cool about it overall. You can still include it with the Roarivore and dual attack versions and even the Soundstrike version, because it can just look like it's a younger member of the family. But looking at this Triceratops again, I really love the paint application they've chosen to use on this. I feel like this yellowish brown that they have for the overall body coloration is really nice, and then the usages of these 2 different variations of brown all over the body makes the entire thing look very cool and very striking, and again, very natural looking, honestly. It looks like it could potentially be the coloration of a Triceratops, so I really think that the paint scheme on this is fantastic. But the only way to really tell how nice the figure is to get a closer look at it, so let's do that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see as far as the Mattel Triceratops goes, they are always beautifully sculpted. There is so much detail in the face of this Triceratops that it is pretty much mind-boggling how good this Triceratops is overall. As far as the sculpt goes, there's really nice detail all around the eye. The detailing as far as the skin texture all over the face, up into the nostril and everything looks great. Even approaching the horns, you can see some really nice kind of creases in the skin and everything. And then the scaling, once you come up onto the actual frill, looks magnificent the whole way through. Really beautiful sculpt as far as the Triceratops goes. The paint application on the face, again, is really quite nice. I think that the colors they've used here, as far as the horns and then the beak, and even the spikes that run up along the frill and border around the frill are really nice, because you've got this beautiful brown, but the lighter coloration really helps to make all of the horns, the beak, and then these little spikes that run along the frill to really jump out at you, and I feel like those colors play off of each other really well, and honestly was a great choice on the part of Mattel. Up here on the face, we start to get this very nice dark brown. It's like a burnt umber brown almost. Very dark looking brown that kind of litters the face, runs up here in between the horns, and then comes around the eye, borders around the eye there, and then it transitions to this more of like a chocolate bar type of a brown, and then that brown kind of litters the entire frill and has kind of a very nice looking design up there, which helps to give the Triceratops quite a bit of a flashy look without using overly flashy colors. I really think that due to that lighter brown and then the darker kind of chocolate brown mixing together there, it really helps to elaborate that brown beautifully due to that lighter yellowish brown in the background, and I think that it looks fantastic the way that those colors all play off of each other, which is one of the reasons I feel like this Triceratops is so appealing looking as far as I'm concerned. Once you come back here into the body, you can see the wonderful sculpt of the front leg. Lots of movement shown in the front leg of this Triceratops. You've got a really nicely sculpted out elbow back there. You can see quite a bit of muscle definition as you move down the leg, but I really feel like the skin creases and wrinkles all over the place in the leg, and it looks extremely realistic. The sculpt of the front legs are kind of in a crouched position, so it almost makes it look, again, displaying this as like a younger Triceratops, like maybe it's playing with another Triceratops and it's crouching down about to jump at it, and maybe they're just having a good old time enjoying each other's company. Sort of the feeling I get when it comes to the crouched legs, because you don't see that on any of the larger Triceratops figures, only this smaller version, so I sort of feel like maybe that's what Mattel was going for. I did just realize that I didn't talk about the eyes. The eyes are painted with a yellowish color and a black pupil. It's not perfectly placed there on that side, but it looks decent enough. This eye actually looks like it's pretty much spot on, honestly. It looks quite a bit better than the other one. They are also nicely glossed, so you can see them shine quite realistically as we turn it. Coming back here into the body, you've got lots of skin wrinkling going on down here on the underside of the dinosaur. Also a good bit of skin wrinkling going on here in the stomach. And if we get a nice close look at how beautiful those scales are, you'll definitely be impressed, as much so as I am, because it really is fantastic, the scale work that is all over the Triceratops, both this and the larger Roarivore versions. Man, the sculpt on these is honestly incredible. I think the Triceratops is potentially one of my favorite Mattel figures overall as far as the sculpt goes, just because there is so much beautiful scaling all over the Triceratops. You can see up here on the back that nice brown, that darker brown that we saw initially on the face, kind of litters and stripes all over the body, and then again, just like we saw in the face, transitions to this more of like a chocolate brown as we lead down the spinal column, and then it litters down the body a little bit. Both versions of the brown does that, and then you can see it litter down here into the thigh as well. Really nice musculature in the thigh, beautiful kneecap. As we lead down the leg, you can see some nice wrinkling going on in both the knee and then the joint of where the ankle would be, and then we can see the foot sculpt, both the front and back foot sculpt looks great. No paint on the nails, however they are glossed, so they do shine quite realistically. And then we lead back up here into the body, and again, the incredible scaling. It is just honestly breathtaking to look at. Mattel has just really sculpted the Triceratops to the max really nicely, and then that chocolate brown cuts off right here, and then the entire tail pretty much is just this yellowish brown, but it looks really good in my opinion. I don't think that takes away from the figure at all. I do state often that I like when the other alternate coloration up here on the top of the animal runs down onto the tail, but in this instance I still feel like it looks beautiful regardless of that. On this side, the only real difference than what you see on the opposing side is this back leg here. It's back a little bit in comparison to the opposing leg, and I feel like this leg looks great as well. As far as the sculpt goes, it's stretched out a little more so I think than the previous leg, so you don't see quite as much as far as creasing going on in the back of the knee or the ankle area. You can take note to the wonderful kneecap there. Beautiful foot sculpt again, both on the front and back feet, and you can also see that this foot is pretty much exactly the same as the opposing one, maybe a forward a little bit more so than the opposing one, but they're both in that really nice crouched position. And then you've got the battle damage, which opens up, sports that really nice reddish coloration, insinuating like the muscle and everything of the inside of the Triceratops. It's glossed beautifully like all of the battle damage figures are, to give it that nice dose of realism. Oddly enough, I almost see like a pinkish coloration over here. I have absolutely no idea what that is, but the battle damage feature does work quite well. The figure overall is fantastic as far as both the sculpt and paint. There is the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection, but I really am quite impressed with this Triceratops. As far as the articulation goes on the Triceratops, we've got the neck on a swivel. It's not quite to the point of what we've seen on the Gasosaurus and Velociraptor, because I can't turn it this way or anything and position it like that. I can pretty much just swivel it like this, which does help to give it some very nice articulation, some really nice poseability at the same time. And you can also set it down and have kind of like a curious look, like maybe it sees a pterosaur or something flying above and it's trying to get a look at it. So the articulation of the neck is nice. I would love to see articulation similar to what we see on the Gasosaurus and Velociraptor. However, I don't quite know how well that would work on a Triceratops, so I am still really happy with that articulation there. Of course, we have articulation in the legs, which it's a little stiff, but I haven't really moved it at all yet. But you've got the articulation to go forward and back, also away from the body as usual. You did see me accidentally open the battle damage there, so we've got that articulation, which works great as always. And you also have the articulation of the rear legs, which can go forward and back, also away from the body, but only a little bit, not too much. And that's it. We don't have articulation in the tail or anything. That's all we get as far as articulation in this figure. but honestly, I feel like that's more than enough. As far as a size goes, from the tail to the tip of the snout, I'm thinking about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, and for a height, about 3 inches or around 8 centimeters, somewhere in that range. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon back there hiding behind the baby Triceratops or juvenile Triceratops, whatever you would like to call it. And hopefully this gives you an idea, if you have never seen the greenish version, of what the size of this figure is. Here in the United States, if you're a Jurassic World hunter, you've most definitely seen the green version, especially when the Jurassic World line had initially began. That was a very frequent kind of a shelf-warming figure, so you would see that one quite often. So if you do have the greenish version, this is exactly the same, just a newly repainted version of that. But hopefully, if you did not see that, this will help you to get a good idea of what the size of this Triceratops is. So this new Primal Attack Mattel Jurassic World Triceratops, the smaller battle damage version, is really, really nice. Again, most times people aren't huge fans of repaints, but when you have a repaint that is this striking, I am definitely a fan. And not to mention, this is actually the first time this figure has been released again. We had the initial green release, but like similar to Velociraptors, we've had tons and tons of repaints of those. The larger Triceratops, we've had tons and tons of repaints of those. But this Triceratops has only ever had that one release, so it is nice to see this one get another round of love from Mattel, especially with an appealing paint scheme like this. I would love to see actually a Roarivore version like this repainted at some point. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but Mattel has released plenty of Triceratops in the past, and I would assume that's probably not going to stop anytime soon, so maybe we'll get that at some point in the future. But personally, I think the coloration used on this is great. We have a few different tones of color, considering we have the lighter brown, which is the primary body color. We also have that darker brown that appears up on the snout of the Triceratops, and then transitions to like a chocolate brown back on the frill, and in the second half of the back and hip area of the Triceratops. And I think all of the colors that they chose are great. They really beautifully play off of each other, and the way they contrast off of each other is fantastic. It looks really, really nice. Again, very flashy looking, but very natural looking all over the figure. I love the color of this. It's exactly what drew me to this figure immediately. I think next to the Gasosaurus, I may have been the most excited to see this Triceratops get a release just because it's so beautiful as far as the paint goes. The sculpt is fantastic. You're never going to find anything short of fantastic when it comes to the Mattel Triceratops sculpt, whether it's the smaller version, whether it's the larger Roarivore Dual Attack or Soundstrike version, or even the minis. Each one of the Triceratops, all of them have fantastic sculpts. So there is never any concern as far as the sculpt of a Triceratops when you're getting one from Mattel, because they're always great. So without question, this Triceratops is awesome. If you happen to get a chance to order this from someone in the United Kingdom or Mexico, definitely take a shot, order it right away, because it really is a fantastic addition to the Jurassic World line. Hopefully it'll start showing up in the United States at some point in the very near future, but who knows when or if that will happen. Regardless, I really do like the figure, and I hope anybody interested in it does in fact get the opportunity to acquire it. So happy hunting, guys, but before you go hunting, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.